Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Fins Faithful podcast. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday night. As always, we're live with you guys on YouTube and on X, so make sure you come on over here, hit that like and subscribe button. Well, we're about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks away from the draft. It's been a fun ride. So now I had to get this guest on because I had him on twice. He's kind of the resident Fins Faithful podcast draft guy we have on. He does a fantastic job. So I had to get him back on, not only to assess the Dolphins draft class, but we're going to talk a little bit about the Shedeur Sanders and all the storylines that happened in this draft. Plus, we'll take a little peek into the 26 quarterback class, which Ryan could probably attest to is very, very different, let's just say, than this past class. Without further ado, let me welcome in my guest, Ryan Roberts, draft analyst from A to Z Sports, scout for the Gridiron class. I don't want to leave that out. Ryan, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining me.
Everything's good, man. Everything's good. We're just trudging along a little bit. We got to the high of draft season, and now we're in the fun part of the off season where nobody wants to talk about football for a couple months. So we're gonna,
over, right?
training camps and OTAs and all that type of stuff is obviously on the horizon. But it's good, man. Everything's good on this end for sure.
Don't give it up yet. Make sure you're on here listening to us before you do that and Ryan stuff on A to Z Sports. So, Ryan, how was your draft weekend? How was it for you? Smooth? What were you doing? Do you watch from home, or do you have like a headquarters over there with A to Z? How does that work?
Yeah, so A to Z had a couple guys that were live in Green Bay, so they were doing like some live stuff there from like content perspective. But I was back home. We did me and Joe DeLeon, who is my co-host at A to Z Film Room. I think we did over the weekend. We do more like short form reaction type of stuff. So we did like I think 25 videos in like 3 days or something like that. Like it was a lot of content, obviously. So we used to do the live stream thing. We might do a live stream next year. We're like already talking about it a little bit, but it was a lot of reaction stuff, day three values and reacting to some crazy picks and trades and all that type of stuff. So it was good though, man. It's not quite as fun as it used to be honest. Because I mean, when I grew up, it was just me and my dad would just watch the draft religiously. Like that's all we did. But now it's kind of like I watch it religiously, but I also have to work.
It's work,
it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a little different now.
I agree with you. Like I remember growing up, me and my brothers used to. It was our thing, right? It's like another Christmas morning. Now it's different because you're covering it. You can't just sit back and just relax. You're thinking about, okay, I got to talk about this. This player went here. You're not just talking around with your buddies with a cold beer. You're now online. Actually did. We weren't sure what we were gonna do. We actually did live stream on and off, but like Saturdays the day we were like on for 4 or 5 hours. So it was fun. And the fans really get into it. The live stream thing. It's the fans really enjoyed. I would go back and watch them. So it was cool to see them come on here and kind of we had over a couple grand throughout awesome. That day. Yeah. So it was fun. But it's in the books. So let's kind of get into it here. Let's start, I guess some of the things first round. We'll start at the very top. I think the big news there was the Cleveland and Jacksonville trade. I was hearing, I'm sure you were right before the draft, a lot of buzz about, look, the Jaguars are looking for a weapon. They're trying to make a splash. They want electricity in the building. Then right before you started, some Cleveland stuff. I had mixed feelings about it, Ryan. I think what I complain about Brian about Chris Greer is that where's his power move? Where's the conviction? I like that about James Gladstone. He was kind of like the draft day kid, right? Spinning the ball in his hands, putting his foot down. Hey, we're going to change the franchise here. We got a conviction of our guy. They gave up a lot of stuff, though. They gave up a second round, early second, 36, which is almost really your late first rounder. They gave up a 4, and they gave up a 1 next year. I guess it depends how you feel about Travis Hunter, and if you feel they got 2 players in 1. I'm still waiting to see that happen. Your thoughts on the trade? Did they give up too much, Ryan?
It's a great question. There's obviously a lot of layers to it. I was convinced that Jacksonville was going to take Ashton Genty at 5. Like
Same.
And I know that it was kind of out in the universe, and you can't always believe what you hear. But that was kind of things I was hearing behind the scenes too, as far as they really like Ashton Genty. Like that would be a guy that they would take, the running back out of Boise State, who obviously went number 6 overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. But I think it was too much in a vacuum. Absolutely. I mean, like, here's the thing: players that you typically trade up in the top 5 for are
quarterbacks. Yeah,
quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like, and I can very easily justify it because the quarterback position matters so much, right? It matters so much. And I also think that a trade up is potentially for even an offensive tackle or a defensive end, like those premier positions that we talk about of high importance. I think that you can justify those a lot as well. Justifying it for a wide receiver or a corner is kind of hard to do at that juncture in the draft. But it does make it super unique that Travis Hunter isn't just a wide receiver or a corner. He is probably the rarest player prospect that we have seen. Like, we just haven't seen a guy that could go top 10 in a draft at two different positions like that. Like, it's just very unique. So I understand the uniqueness of it. And this might end up being like a Shohei Ohtani thing in a few years where you're just like, he completely resets a market of
Resets
his
the
own
franchise,
label, right?
and
Like,
resets that franchise. Yeah.
yeah, and it's possible that that happens. But in a vacuum, I believe that it's going to be very hard to play both sides of the ball in the NFL level at a high volume. I believe that they made the move up because they want to make sure that Trevor Lawrence has as much support around him as humanly possible. So what I think is going to happen is that Travis Hunter is going to be a wide receiver at the high volume, and then he's going to play 10 snaps a game at defense, maybe like somewhere in that ballpark. Like, that would be my guess ultimately. So like Travis Hunter, but admittedly, here's the kicker. I like him more a corner than I do at wide receiver.
So do I.
I just do.
So do I. I see like a receiver. I see like Devontae Smith, right? Is that, and that's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
In that corner, what if he's Devontae Smith and Darius Slay? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't go wrong with that, right? But it's very difficult. If anybody can do it, this kid is wired different. Like he's about ball. Like, he loves ball. So like, people need to understand that.
Yeah, but his body did break down a little bit, in sequences the last 2 years because of play. I mean, he averaged 113 snaps a game last year for Colorado, which is just, it's hard for me to imagine someone doing anything close to that on the NFL level. Like, I would be almost shocked if he did. So we need to have the conversation of like value relatively to that. Cause like, he's a second overall pick that you mortgaged a lot of capital to get up and get. If he can be the type of two-way player that he thinks he can be, then it's probably worth it. Right. But if he ends up just being a good wide receiver and maybe a great pairing with a Brian Thomas Jr., is that worth that much capital? Like, that's the question mark. And I think so many people could validate and say, yes, it's worth that if you save Trevor Lawrence, right? Like, if you save him and he becomes the guy and he's your franchise savior, then maybe it's worth it. But for me, I just thought it was a little bit too much for a non-quarterback.
Yeah, I think I probably lean that way. I've been trying to sell myself, and I get where they're coming from. They're trying to sell this move as kind of like the franchise change. They're training the culture in the building. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. I agree with you. I think they should do it the other way, mainly at corner, then have those snaps kind of the opposite at wide receiver. But part of it is they wanted to get him. I think they wanted to help Trevor, and they consider him that offensive weapon. So I agree with you. And I think the player this helped the most is Mason Graham. Because I thought Mason Graham, he's the type of guy that slides to like towards 10 because he's not overwhelming with physical attributes. And I said, wow, what I said months ago might actually happen. And then when they made that deal, because I think if they stay at 5, they take Genty or McMillan. 6, the Raiders probably go Membu, if I'm guessing, or Kelvin Banks.
Yeah.
And then 7, depending on what the Jets do, maybe that's where Graham can start. So, but I think that helped them. But it'll be interesting to see how it played out. Anything else surprise you in the first round? Like Will Johnson's slide, was the knee that bad?
Yeah, I mean, apparently, that kind of came up a little bit later in the process. Like, we knew that he had a medical recheck, but we didn't know that it was like, it was flagged. I talked to a couple teams that like had completely taken him off the board just because it was red flagged, like it was. So
I heard the Dolphins had him flagged.
Yeah. So there was a couple that I've talked to that definitely had him off the board just because of that situation. Some teams mortgage that though at the right price point. He fell to the 50s, right? So like at 50 something, you probably got a top 10 overall player when he is healthy. So, if he only plays 5 or 6 years, I think you're okay with that value at that point.
Yeah. 46. Rounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's like, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, you have to compromise with it, right? Like, what's the right price point for a guy that maybe won't make a second contract? Like, that's what you ultimately have to decide there with Will. So I wasn't shocked that he fell. I was shocked that he fell that much, though. I still thought he was going to go in the first round. Like, I thought he'd be a back end 20s, maybe 30s, like whatever. I thought he would
Yeah.
still potentially slide in the first round, but sliding completely out did surprise me a little bit. Other than that, like, I mean, some people were shocked by like Mike Green falling to like 59 or whatever it was. Like, I wasn't.
Yeah, I
I
could see that
reported
slide
on it.
happen. Yeah.
You know, like of the when we're talking about past, even if it's not a situation where you get charged, like sexual assault cases or
Yeah.
allegations are like
Not a
a
joke.
very
Yeah.
big thing in the
Yeah.
NFL. You know, and he had
Or in
multiple of them.
life. You
So
know what I mean?
yes, I mean like. There's just some things I just don't think the NFL plays with too much. Like they're willing to overlook Walter Nolan maybe being a little bit of a head case off the field and having some character concerns, but they're not going to overlook a guy that's had twice where he's been had allegations against him for sexual assault. Like that is just a little bit of a steep it's a little bit of a steep ask
Yeah.
for some people, obviously. So him falling out wasn't a huge. I'm trying to think of if there's anyone that was like I was shocked. Okay, I joked with Joe, my co-host, because
Yeah.
he's a Giants fan, that they were going to draft Jackson Dart. But I thought they were going to draft Jackson Dart at the early portion of the second round. I didn't think that a team was going to come in for Jackson Dart. I just didn't. I didn't think they were going to come in. Honestly, if the Giants didn't, I don't think another team would have done it either. I think the Giants kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they
could've
fought
stayed at
against
30.
themselves to make
Yeah.
sure that he got there. So yeah, that was one that I was just like, oh boy, that's fun times. Fun times.
Yeah. I mean, Kelvin Banks, I heard he's getting top 10 love. I didn't
Yes.
have him that high.
Mhm.
I know DJ mocked them, to 6 to the Raiders. I think maybe the whole, I think they thought maybe Genty would go 5 to the. He shaked up the top of the. I think the top 6 or 7, that whole deal.
Yep.
But again, nothing really surprised me. Cleveland, they took Mason Graham, they took my guy Carson Schlesinger, who I had my big board. I had a couple hits, and we'll talk about. I had Schlesinger at 34. He goes 33. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was a big fan of his. And shout out to we talk about Jacksonville. I don't remember if I mentioned Caleb Ransaw. I was so high at Caleb, so I was so glad that he was in my top 100. He went, and then what other guy surprised me? Oh, what's Tesla 70?
Tesla, yeah.
I was
they gave up a lot to go up and get Tesla.
I had him in top 100. I'm so glad I did it. I just loved him, and he went. I was even surprised. I thought he'd go in that 90s. I was even surprised. But I said, listen, guys with that physicality, that athleticism, that size, they go, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, here's one that actually surprised me a little bit now that I was just kind of thinking back to the first round. It wasn't shocking to me that Emeka Egbuka went top 20. It was surprising to me where he ended up. Like that was a surprise to me. I have a couple solid sources around Tampa, and I was so confident that they were going corner. I was so confident they were going corner. And obviously they ended up getting Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish back to back after that. So
Love
like corner
guys,
wasn't an issue. But I thought 19 was going to be a corner. I just really did. I thought there was a corner on the board that they liked as well, but they decided to go for Emeka Egbuka, who year one is probably going to be the third wide receiver on this team as long as Chris Godwin gets back healthy. But I think he's kind of the long-term fill in for Chris Godwin whenever he does end his tenure in Tampa.
My youngest brother is a huge Buccaneers fan. He was a little surprised, because the names you heard at receiver, Golden, you heard, but he did tell me before the draft they like Parrish a lot, and I love the two corners they got. I love Benjamin Morrison and I love Parrish. Two different type of corners, but good mix in there. Were you surprised, Ryan? Again, we have Ryan Roberts on. Make sure you guys, wherever you're watching, come on over to YouTube, smash that little thumbs up, smash the little bell, help subscribe, and support the channel. We got Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports, draft analyst. Ryan, were you surprised Ohio State that Judkins went over Henderson? I'm not, because teams fall in love, size, speed, and let's not forget, what is Henderson? He's about 205, right? We can't lose sight of that.
Yeah, I think Henderson's a better player, but I was not shocked at all that Judkins went first. Not at all. Because especially in like the second, third rounds, or just moving down the board a little bit, it ultimately depends on what you're looking for in a back, right? And obviously Cleveland they lost Nick Chubb this offseason, isn't the same player anymore. So they were trying to find a hammer, right? They found a hammer, and then they doubled up and they drafted Dylan Sampson from Tennessee a couple rounds later. So they found their speed and another way. But yeah, I mean, if a team wanted to hammer a guy that can be more of an early down ball carrier, they were going to prefer Judkins. If they wanted a guy that was a little bit more of a space player and a guy that can impact third down at a higher rate, then they were going to like Henderson a little bit more. So I just think that it came down to Cleveland had a type of running back that they valued highly. If it was a different situation, I'm trying to think like if the Los Angeles Chargers didn't take a Marion Hampton in the first round and they wanted more of a day two value, I could have seen them going with a Henderson who's a much different style than like a Najee Harris for you know for just comparison's sake. So it really depended on who was going to take the next running back, but it wasn't overly shocking to me because I know the NFL likes Judkins a lot and he is obviously more of that early down ball carrier mold than what a Henderson is.
And teams fall in love with traits and physicality and size. You know, when you shake, people underestimate when you shake a guy's hand, you see him in person. These GMs fall in love. You know what I mean? They fall in love with these guys. And I always say traits are always going to win. If somebody rises up the board, it's traits. You know that's what these teams look for. All right, so let's get into the Shedeur Sanders stuff. Sure. All right, so this is interesting, right? I only saw one first-round quarterback. So him not going around running, no surprise. Round 2 is probably where I thought the sweet spot would be for him. Now, I want to ask you this. Where did you have your quarterbacks ranked, your top 5, right before the draft? Like, what was your expectation of Shedeur?
I thought Shedeur would go late first rounds, just based upon everything I was hearing still. I had him graded as a late second, early third round pick. Was in a again, that's graded in a vacuum. There's no There's no positional value that's injected into that grade. It's just, on my grading scale, he's a late second, early third round player. Like he's right in that bubble. But I still thought he was going to go a little bit earlier than that just because I do think that the demand was there, especially with a couple of the teams that decided to not go quarterback, at least in the first round, and drafted a quarterback a little bit earlier. Like Tyler Shuck went top 40, right? So like I thought that in a vacuum, Shedeur was going to go somewhere in the late first rounds. It got to the point, George, where people ask this question a million times because it's a fascinating question, obviously. Why did Shedeur Sanders fall to where he fell, right? It's a very interesting conversation. At the end of the day, he is a very accurate passer who has a good mind for the game that doesn't have crazy physical traits. Right? He's very average across the board in terms of movement skills, in terms of pure arm strength, all those types of things. Dependent on your talents is how much teams are going to look the other way about the noise, right? And fortunately and unfortunately for Shedeur, because he's had a good life, obviously. His dad is a Hall of Famer. He's been in a good position his entire life for the most part. Fortunately for him, he has his father and he has his family. Unfortunately for him, his family and his prestige brings a lot of outside noise. It does. And some of it's on him. Some of it's not. Like, you can't help who your family is, right? You can't help that type of stuff. But he probably should have done a couple things differently throughout the draft process. But all of that is to say this, is that I think teams at the end of the day said, this is as much as we're willing to take from the circus perspective based upon the talents. And I think that some teams just said the circus is bigger than the talent at this point. And he started to fall down boards a little bit. And eventually there was a compromise that obviously happened in the fifth round to the Cleveland Browns. We'll see how that works out ultimately in the end. It's a very strange room. It's a very strange situation. But I do think the fall he's just not talented enough to deal with that full circus all the time in some capacity. But I'm hoping that he got humbled a little bit. He's able to take a step forward now. He's get a fresh start, clean slate, all those types of things, and is able to dust himself off and become a good NFL quarterback. But unfortunately, that fall did happen because I just think the noise was a little bit too rich comparative to what the talent was.
Yeah, I think not. I agreed. I think he's a guy who, where's his superpower, right? He's not big. He's not overly big. He's not overly athletic. He holds on to the ball way too much, takes a ton of sacks. The arm's not big. And then we're getting the bag. We're getting all the entourage stuff and all the off the field stuff with it. Is it worth it? Now, it got to a point where it was getting ridiculous. The fifth round, like if he fell to the third round, I got you. You know what I mean? Shout out to Finn Sammy. Shout out to the Dive Bar podcast. Bobby Knows Boys. Check out their channel. They're doing great work. They had Sonny Michelle on the other day, and shout out to Finn Sammy. I think we're not talking about the league probably wasn't as high, like you said, as high in him than we think. I don't think even as a perfect off the field prospect, he might not be a first round talent, right? So
Yeah,
so like
no, he's not.
so we're not. But the Browns, it almost seems like they obviously love Dylan Gabriel. They had him higher rated, whatever reason that is. Because he even predicted. Did you see that video where Dylan Gabriel was like predicted 94 to the Cleveland Browns? They obviously were in communication. He had a good feel. He was going there. And then when they picked Shedeur in the 5th round, you saw, Andrew Berry and the coach. This was not their pick. This was the owner saying, "I'm getting too much heat. Let's settle this down." He's still there. I think we're not talking about that enough. But the question is, he went right after the Dolphins pick. Now, I know. So I was on live stream during this. Bringing it back here. Obviously, we'll talk about their class. They took another quarterback, Quinn Ewers. They decided they'd rather have Ewers in the 7th, and they'd instead of taking Sanders in the 5th, which is what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would have been a good fit? I think X's and O's is a good fit.
Yep.
Do you think the stuff in the room with everything that's going on, Tyreek, Tua, all that stuff? Because I'll tell you, Ryan, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes with Tua in the organization that, it's been a little more distant this offseason. I'll put it to you that way. And him and Tyreek, do you think it would have been the right move for them to do that at round 5?
I love the fit in the offense in McDaniel's system. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that he's a heavy play action quarterback, extremely accurate, can do the RPO game. Like, there's a lot to like in that system. But yeah, I think it would not have been a great fit as far as the personalities in the room, for sure. Because I'll say this about Tua. I still like Tua, right? Like, he's injury prone, and that's going to stun him, and his ceiling is obviously capped at this point. Like, I mean, it's very obvious. But the one thing about Tua that I've always, or last couple years, I should say, where it's just hard for me to get past is I wouldn't call him mentally weak, but I will call him fragile, for the lack of a better word. I mean, I think that
sensitive,
very sensitive. I think back to like the Flores stuff, right? Where it's like, did Flores do right all the time with how he interacted with players and stuff? Absolutely not. I don't think he did. But also, you're the quarterback, man. You got to let some of that stuff kind of go off your back a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a little oversensitive, in my opinion. It was. And I don't think putting Shedeur in that room would have helped his psyche at all. I don't think it would have helped Shedeur's psyche. Like, I think it would have been a bad mix. And then, I mean, they have plenty of stuff to figure out. I mean, I saw Tyreek Hill had his second surgery or whatever today or whatever it is, right? And like, there's a lot of stuff that's going, just a lot of bad personalities in one room, or a lot of conflicting personalities is probably what I should say. So
this locker room is interesting. I mean, there's a lot of sensitivity in the organization, right? I think when we get to this draft here, I think they did a good job of getting certain types of players and types of guys, though, in this draft class. But yeah, I've always said about Tua, enough. If I got to worry about what my quarterback's going to think when we bring in a certain quarterback, he's not the guy. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? Tua's led the league in passing rating, passing yards, passing this. We're beyond that. We're in year 5, going to year 6. Like, that's over with now. Like, if you're that, I think this whole organization and the players, and I think it's a temperament of the head coach, Ryan. You know what I mean? Like, the whole player empowerment, if it doesn't work, man, the backlash, and we're starting to see it. Yeah. It's a big problem. If the player empowerment's got to work, you have to win, and you got to buy in. And the thing with this team, and I'll say this on this subject, is Tua a leader that can cross the line of scrimmage as far as the leadership? It's one thing to be cool with the receiver or cool with the head coach, but can you stand in Jordan Brooks' face and lead him? You get what I mean? That's what a Calais Campbell does.
Matters.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I did really like Cam Ward in this class. I felt like even actually more than a lot of people did, because say what you want about the guy, man, as far as like the deficiencies in this game, and there certainly are some, right? Like, Cam Ward also holds the ball too long. He also fumbles way too much. Like, there's some things about Cam Ward's game that's like, all right, brother, like, we got to reel this in a little bit. But there's no questioning the calmness and the swagger that guy plays with, and he was, in my opinion, he was the alpha in this quarterback class because of how he carried himself. And to your point, I do think he would get in Jordan Brooks' face. I do think he would get in Jordan. I think he would get in Tyreek Hill's face and tell Tyreek, go sit down, man. Like, sit down.
You got to be able to cross the line of scrimmage. You just can't be buddy-buddy with your head coach and like your left guard. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be able to do it with the whole team. And I think that it's going to be interesting. And let me tell you something about Cam Ward. You know what I loved about him? There was no fancy stuff on his draft. His suit was basic. yo, let's get to work. I'm that guy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? The one
Love
thing
it.
he's got that dog mentality, and you don't bet against guys like that, man. Those guys,
Agreed.
you don't bet against him. So I was so happy to see Cam go one. He really separated himself from me during this process by a mile from the rest of these guys. And I think we could look back, and we all say this quarterback class is probably not that good. But, you know, Cam Ward might be the guy we look back on to maybe save this class because, man, I loved the way he – so simple. His suit was simple. There was not jewelry everywhere, right? Like, it's okay to do that. But he meant business. Like, he didn't spend 3 weeks with a designer designing his suit, right? You know, you get what I mean? Like, it was just, all right, that one's good. That beige brown color, yeah, let me get that with a plain black shirt. Give me a ball. Give me the playbook. Let's go. All right.
Love it.
So – you want to get into the Dolphins now? Let's get into the Dolphins, guys. We're Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports. Make sure you come on over to YouTube, hit that like, subscribe button, watch over here and help support the channel. All right, so the Dolphins class, you know, two guys I identified early in the process for the Dolphins. I think we got to separate the class, right? We got to separate the first two, then, you know, the 100, pick difference that they had. I will say this about the class. I don't know where you had each of these guys, first two guys ranking. We'll go one by one. I had Kenneth Grant 14 on my board, Savannah at 39. So they went right where but some people had him lower. I've even seen some people have him higher. I like the attitude. I like the theme. Clearly, they wanted to get younger, big, physical, and athletic. And those are probably as good as you're going to get with size, speed, and girth and power, those two guys. Your thoughts? We'll start with Grant and Savannah.
Yeah, I think that we talked about this already a little bit, but I do think you needed an injection of attitude in the trenches. Like, I think that was a big piece of this Dolphins draft that you needed. Christian Wilkins brought that, obviously, on the interior, and he is no longer here, right? So, like, you needed somebody on the defensive line that was a little bit of a tone setter, a guy that could do a lot of the dirty work, those types of things, and I think that Kevin Grant, I think Kenneth Grant can do that at a high level, and he is a very gifted athlete at 330 plus pounds, and I think he's exactly what the Dolphins needed. I think he makes Zach Seiler better. I think he makes the edge players better, Chop and Jalen Phillips and all those types of guys. I think he makes them a ton better. I think he makes the linebackers better because you can take up multiple blockers at the end of the day. So I think this is a player that was very much needed for Miami. Some people would say he's maybe drafted a little bit high, but like for me, I was totally fine with the value because I think that the upside is immense. If he is coached well, here's the cool part about Kenneth Grant. He's got every tool in the toolbox. I think he brings a solid floor to the table, but he is nowhere near his ceiling. Like, he is not consistent at all right now. If you get him to be consistent, he could be a top 10 player in this class. He's that talented. And I think he's what the Dolphins needed. Like, they needed that impact size on both sides of the football. The Dolphins are, and I'm going to be as nice as I can about this, the Dolphins are too soft. Like, they are a soft football team on both sides of the ball. They just are. They need more toughness. They need more size. They need more physicality. Kenneth Grant brings all of those things in spades. So I like the first pick, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback from Kenneth Grant, I think I think people vary on what the pass rush upside is. I think it's there. I mean, he's a little linear, but like guys don't move like him, at that size. So I think it's there, and I think I agree with you. Is Zach fit? And I think the second guy too, Savannah. Where did you have Savannah? How did you have him? Talk about him and tell me where you had him with like Rutledge or Ursa. Those kind of guys went a little bit after.
He was my second ranked interior player behind Tyler Booker. I love Jonah. Yeah. I had a late first, early second rounds. I thought I was a little bit higher than the NFL, but apparently at least one team saw that we were on we were on similar wavelengths. Yeah. I think that from a talent perspective and an upside perspective, he could play tackle if you wanted him to. I thought he had pretty good tackle tape at Arizona, especially this past year. He's played left tackle. He's played right tackle. He's played inside a guard, obviously. I think he could last the tackle if you needed him to. But during this process, I mean, he said it himself. He wants to play guard because he wants to put hands on people. Like, that's what he said, right? And so this kid is a really good athlete for his size. I mean, 6'4", 320-something pounds. He moves exceptionally well. His kick slide's really good, man. Like, he gets from point A to point B very fast, which is why I think he can play tackle, and he's got enough length. He's right around 34-inch arms, so he could play tackle if he wanted to. But clearly he has the intention of playing guard. I will say this, and he's a younger guy, obviously. He was a true junior that came out, so he's still a young cat on the interior. I think that he could be more forceful as a blocker at times. I think he'd be a little bit more aggressive. I think that there is still a tick that needs to go up there. He needs to play with a little bit more bad intent overall. But from a size, athleticism, and upside perspective, this kid's at least going to be a good starting guard in the NFL, in my opinion. But I think he has Pro Bowl upside if he taps into his full-time potential.
Yeah, we're speaking the same language. I think it was with you the first time I had you on. I said, "Look, I wouldn't hate Savannah at 13." Like I was crazy. Everybody was like, these are two guys I love because I thought you mentioned it, and the fans would agree. All Dolphins fans would agree this team is soft. It's not a secret, and I think they're young. Savannah is like a baby in a nice way. Like he's just densely built. The arms are huge, the legs, the calves, and his hand strength, Ryan. I mean, his hand strength is elite. Like, and I agree with you. I think once this guy develops and plays even more attitude, I think the upside's Pro Bowl guard. Can you swing him at tackle? Sure. On the right side, he's even playing some left.
Play right tackle.
Yeah, I think he can play. But at guard, I say he's a plus athlete at right tackle, plus athlete inside a guard.
He's an outstanding athlete. Yeah. He's explosive. He's smooth. He's got lateral mobility. That's why I think that he could play tackle if you wanted him to. Like, I think he has the recovery ability, and I think he's got the length. Like, he can do it absolutely. But yeah, again, I think that everything gets ticked up a level when you're projecting inside the guard. Like you said, he's a plus athlete at right tackle, but he is a stellar one at guard. And I think he'll be one of the more athletic offensive guards the minute that he plays a snap. And again, like you just this is a statement, and I texted my dad this. I don't know if I ever told you this, but my dad is a Dolphins fan.
Yeah, you have.
I am not though, but I texted my dad. This is the first time.
Good for you.
This is the first time in years I texted my dad this, and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, like this has not happened to me in a very long time, but I liked a Miami Dolphins offensive line pick. Like this has happened. I hated the Austin Jackson pick. I have receipts on that one. I hated that pick. I'm a Notre Dame guy, and I hated the Liam Eichenberg pick. I'm like, that's horrible. Like he's not a second rounder.
I liked Wyatt Mullen, but I couldn't get Liam Eichenberg out of my head when I was watching Wyatt.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, so I feel Patrick Paul, not a Patrick Paul fan. We'll see if I'm right or wrong on that one.
I hope he works out, but
yeah. You gotta hope. I mean, he's a left tackle, right?
So he's a left tackle right now.
So I mean, hopefully I'm wrong on that one, just for like the general upside of the Miami Dolphins franchise. But I have not liked a Miami Dolphins offensive line pick in a few years, man. Like I haven't until Jonah.
This guy could be like Robert Hunt again for them. You know what I mean?
Actually, that's a good point. I did like Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt was a good one. I liked him a lot at Louisiana Tech. So that was one
another
that I did
tackle.
like. Yeah, another right tackle that transitioned inside the guard. Yeah, so I think that Jonah, if he is developed well, and I don't know anything about your offensive line coach, so like
Butch Berry, really good guy.
Yeah, so if he's good, I think that you have all the talent in the world in Jonah. Apparently, it's pronounced Savaiania. Savaiania.
We're going with Jonah S. Because everybody has had a different pronunciation, and if I ever meet the guy in person, I want to make sure I get it right because he's pretty.
I got to send you a tweet. Someone actually did ask him at the combine. I got it on video.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was Jova Savaiania. I think is how he said it. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Something. Jonah, Sava.
Jonah. I'm just going to call him Jonah. Yeah. We're on a first name basis, so we'll call him Jonah.
Man, I love those two. And I just see so much potential. And I was glad everybody was shocked he ran so well. I was like, I'm not shocked. I saw this big athlete, 4.95 for that size, and people said, you could have the trade up. Like we gave up pick 98 and some stuff. I didn't mind it. You went and got your guy. He's the guard I wanted. But, Tate Ratledge, I like Tate Ratledge, but I like Savannah.
Yeah, Tate's good. Yeah.
Tate's good. Tate's an older prospect, though. He's 24. You're talking about a 21-year-old physical specimen inside because they kind of want an attitude, Jay. Tate was good. Tate's going to be a heck of a player, too. Ursere, you got to project, right? Ursere, I liked Ursere a lot. He was another big athlete, but you don't have to project with Savannah. You've seen it at right guard. Yeah, I think they got guard. Yeah, exactly. I think they got two starters in the first two picks. Yeah.
I agree. And they're going to start from day one. I mean, I imagine. Kenneth Grant's going to slide into nose, and I imagine that Jonah's right guard probably. I don't know.
Right guard because you don't want to put him next to a rookie left tackle. Anyway, you put or second year left tackle who we'll just see. We'll leave it at that. A second year left tackle but I will say this about Patrick Paul. I hated the pick, right? But I will say this, Ryan, as somebody who watches every Dolphin game and covers it, that the crazy stuff he did, his tan technique in college at Houston was pretty bad, let's just say.
Yes.
But when you have a guy who does 31 reps with that kind of arm length,
Mhm.
there is
he's certainly strong,
like he makes the mistakes, but he's able to hold it anchored. Like it's kind of weird. So I'm like, maybe he just plays like that and he's effective. Now, Myles Garrett gave him trouble, but Myles Garrett's going to give every player trouble, right? So I'm a little more hopeful in Patrick Paul. Let's see, because I don't think they have anybody behind him like what Keon Smith, Larry Bolam. I mean, it's not good. So
I forgot Larry Borum was on the team.
Yeah. It's good to forget.
I hope for the Paul family's sake, his older brother Chris that played at Tulsa was one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. So
really?
I hope the Paul. Oh yeah, Chris was awesome. Awesome kid.
Yeah, and Patrick seems like a great guy. Don't get me wrong. I hope it works out. But we like picks we don't like. Sometimes we're right. Sometimes we're wrong. But All right. So now, how did you feel about? Okay, we know they traded. Then they had 4th round. They traded out of that spot for 3 next year. I'll be honest. At 98, when they were like first trade, I had no problems because at 98, Ryan, there was nothing I loved there. Like it wasn't. There was just a bunch of guys, and if you took that guy at 98 or 128. I was like, okay, it's not much different. 116, I think I probably would have went if I was going to stay there. Would have been Billy Bowman, Quincy Riley, something like that. I know they wanted Ty Robinson, and he got picked, and they like C.J. West. Did you have a problem with them getting that 3rd? Did you actually like what they did, or do you think they had too much of a gap there? Pick 37 to pick 143.
I mean, I was okay with it. I think that there's a pretty wide gap this year as far as like 2nd to 5th round talents or 4th round talent. Just
I agree.
Like that was the strength of this class. It wasn't top heavy as far as like true 1st round grades, but like when you got into 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, even into the 5th round, like there was a lot of that. I mean, there were a couple of 7th round picks this year where I'm like, that's a great value. Like it really is.
And
I thought he was going to go 2 rounds earlier. So yeah, I think there was depth to this class. Absolutely. So I'm okay with in that situation. I think that there is a lot of value to potentially playing that game.
Yeah. Again, we're joined by Ryan Roberts. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Help support us. And also make sure you check out Ryan's work from A to Z Sports. He is one of the best. I told him his show with Joe. How do you pronounce Joe's last name? DeLeon?
De Leon. It's like
De Leon.
De Leon. Yep.
De Leon. Yep. We might get something to work with Joe De Leon and Ryan Roberts come on together. We were talking about. I'm a big fan of the show. Make sure you guys check that out. All right. So they go in the 5th round. They don't take Shedeur Sanders. They take not the same Jordan Phillips they had here a few years ago. Yep. What are your thoughts on Jordan? Like when I look at him, it's like this ball of energy of muscle, weight room guy, 20 years old. Like he's a guy I think when he's 25, like holy crap, dude. You know what I mean? Like he could be something. He's young. I don't mind that pick and that value there at 143.
No, no, not at 143. 133 is great. It's great value potentially because there's a lot of upside there. He is a ball of muscle. Like I saw him at the combine. I wasn't able to go down to East West, which when he was down there in Frisco, competing. But I saw him in person, and I mean he
looks the part, right?
Yeah. I mean,
not long though, right? Ryan, he's not long.
He's like 31 and a half inch arms or something like that. So no, he's got shorter arms. He's not the tallest guy. Like he's very compactly built, which is why he's going to be a pure nose on the NFL level. Like he's not a guy that's going to play 3. He's not going to extend out in odd fronts to play 4-4.
0-1.
He's a 0 shade. Like that's what he's going to be, and that's totally fine. Here's the thing though. That dude is a brick, you know what's. Like, he cannot be moved at the point of attack. You cannot dig him out. He is incredibly strong at the point of attack, and he's got a dynamite first step. Like, he's really explosive. The things, though, like, the negatives are obviously, like we said, there's no length, so he's not going to extend far out of his 0 shade. Like, he's not going to be that type of guy. And then also, he's very linear. Like, he's not a change of direction dude, so there's not a ton of upside as a pass rusher. There's not. But he is a incredibly strong player with a lot of developmental upside. I think that eventually he'll at least be a key rotational player inside, but I do think he has some starter upside as a 0 in an even or an odd man front. Like I think he's strong enough to play in an odd man front as like a true 0 if you wanted him to, but he could certainly be a shade one tech in an even man front as well. So I think that he has a lot of upside. He is 20 years old, like you mentioned. I believe, if I remember correctly, he's the youngest player in the 2025 NFL draft. So there's a whole
first or second youngest. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dolphins draft was the youngest by far. There was a chart. Yeah.
I think there was only like 3 or 4 players in the entire draft this year that were 20 years old on
Because
draft
it
day.
was an
So
older
like,
draft because of the
yeah.
last COVID kind of year,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Last COVID year. So
So
you definitely a little bit of an older draft. So he's a young cat. Started his career at Tennessee for 1 year, then played at Maryland the last 2 years. If you're drafting him to be a sack guy, if you're drafting him
no,
to have a ton of backfield production, that's not what you're going to be. That's not what you're going to like. But this is a
had
linebacker's best friend.
yeah,
Take up multiple blockers, be able to be
great
a bully in the run game, play
plays
at the point of
low.
attack. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah,
Plays with
he
great
plays
leverage.
low with leverage. Like, he plays real low. He's just going to be tough to move. I see. I agree with you. I see an athletic starting nose in a few years there. And maybe with, how long is Zach Sealer going to be here? You never know. Like it could it could be a different type of player. But like I thought that was good pick. They took. We'll talk about the other guy they took too. But they obviously wanted to get that D tackle room. But I like the pick. The Jason Marshall one is interesting. All right, here's the thing with Jason Marshall. I watched the film, right? I went back. Good reps versus SEC competition. Looks the part. Former high recruit, Ryan. Good mirror ability. Like, he's got good feet. Just inconsistent and is not a willing tackler. And there's some effort issues there, too, with him a little bit. Like, interesting player, right? Highly recruited. Outside corner. But there's some inconsistencies that make you go, not sure. That's why he went in the 5th round.
He's a very strange player because from a pure coverage perspective, I kind of like him inside at the nickel because I think he's pretty good with two-way goes and be able to mirror and be able to play in man coverage.
Yeah.
But also, he's not a great run defender, so nickels have to fit against the run. Like, you have to do that type of stuff playing inside. So like that's a little bit troubling. So his play style and coverage says nickel, but his play style in the run game and physicality says that he's an outside corner, which is just like super weird.
Yes,
it's kind of
so
a mix
weird,
and match
man.
player.
Yeah.
So I think you're betting on traits. I mean, he's a kid that probably would have ended up going a little bit earlier if he wasn't injured the majority of this year and he could have played, done more during the draft process and all that type of stuff. He may have been drafted a little bit earlier. So I think you're just betting on traits. I mean, there was a reason that he was a high caliber kid at some point. I mean, he's a good athlete. He's got good change of direction. There's things to like about Jason Marshall, but yeah, that might have been my least favorite pick of the draft.
Yeah.
I just thought there were better corners on the board at that point, if that's really what you wanted at that spot.
Yeah, I don't remember if Zal Frazier was on the board at that time. I think
he was. I think
I would have went there with. I would have went with the upside there with Frazier. All right, so I love this next pick. Like Dante, he's a fascinating case and I can't wait to see him in camp. Okay, he has 2nd round tape. Undrafted free agent testing, right? He is unbelievable. Like, he was a lacrosse player. You see that on film.
Yep.
Comes downhill. You don't see him miss tackles. Intelligent. Calls the defense. Like, the long speed you see when he gets caught one-on-one deep, you see where the long speed's an issue.
Yeah.
But, man, I mean, his testing was horrible. But, like, I guess they met in the middle. 2nd round tape, undrafted free agent 7th round testing. Like, I guess they just met in the middle, 5th round. But I like this kid. I'm very intrigued to see him in camp.
Yeah, no, he was. I went on a different Dolphins channel like a week ago or so, and yeah, this was probably my favorite value of this class overall. Like, I think Trader's going to play in the NFL. I think he might start at some point. Like, I do think he has that type of upside
this year,
to him.
maybe for the Dolphins. Look at their safety room.
True. Yeah,
can he beat Ashton Davis out?
Yeah. Which it's funny because Ashton Davis is the complete opposite player.
Yes.
Ashton Davis is like freak athlete, but doesn't know what he's looking at, right? Yeah. Like he's that type of guy. But yeah, I mean, look, I didn't think the Trader was going to be an elite athlete by any stretch, but I was also shocked that he tested quite as poorly as he did. Like, I thought he was a really smooth athlete. Like, I thought that the testing would be a little bit better.
Background there.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not. I mean, Maryland's generally a good lacrosse program too, so it's not like he's played it really just playing for shits and gigs. Like, he's playing at a high level school and doing both sports, which is super impressive. But I think that he will end up being one of the values in this class. I think that he is very proactive, has really good eyes. I think he's got natural ball skills. And I think that he's got more range on the back end than maybe his testing would suggest overall. So he's more of a too high type of system guy than a true center fielder type. But I do think that he can make a lot of plays on the football, and I think he's got upside in coverage for sure. Like, there's no doubt about it. So I think that value is tremendous at that spot. Yeah, I just really like the Trader pick, and I think that he is going to end up being maybe the
Yeah,
biggest value in this
yeah,
class
it's
compared
one
to
of
the
those. It's just you get a feel for a guy that you're pretty comfortable. Like I think for the 5th round pick, he's going to play in the NFL. He's one of those guys, and I think you made a good point. You see the feet, you see the fluidity, and I think one thing that helps him, as long as he keeps everything in front of him, is his ability and kind of IQ and ability to jump out. He reads the quarterback's eyes, jumps from. I remember Sam Madison and Patrick Surtain used to do this. That ages me a little bit, but they would
Sam the man.
yeah,
Sam
they
the
would
man.
they would be able to read that he's going here. If they're playing zone, I'm going to drop off here. I'm going to undercut it. Like they're 3 steps ahead of the quarterback, and I think that's where Trader maybe doesn't have the elite speed, and that's maybe why we thought he would test better. Is because he's a yard or two ahead of the quarterback, and so he's there. It's like I always say that about Zach Thomas. Like Zach was 2-3 yards ahead of the read the running back, almost his vision. He'd read it for him, and that made him look a lot faster than he was. And I think obviously not comparing him, but like I think those kind of skills are something we don't. You really got it. You can't. There's no numeric value on that to kind of scout and put out there.
He's a proactive football player. I mean, I think it's a perfect way. I'm like reliving that old Miami Dolphins defense now. I'm thinking about Zach Thomas, and I'm thinking about Brock Marion and Sam Madison and Patrick Surtain and who else? Bowens,
Tim Bowens, Daryl Gardner.
Jason Taylor, obviously, right? Like that was a hell of a defense.
Yeah, and guys coming through that out of Wale Agunlie,
Oh, who was Trace Armstrong, right?
Trace Armstrong,
yeah, he was a good player. Yeah.
Man, boy, the good old days.
He had Trace Armstrong had a hell of a man. He had a great job. Everyone was so paying over attention to Jason Taylor. And they're like, all right, Trace, 1-on-1. There you go.
There was a huge year. If I remember, there was a huge year with the Dolphins. It wasn't like he had I forget, but he had a huge sack year with the Dolphins. All right, so where are we at? Trader, then we go into round 6. There's a lot of fascinating picks here with the Dolphins. They're kind of like it's a lot of gray area.
Yeah.
Ollie Gordon. Here's the thing about Ollie, right? I warmed up to Ollie as the process went on because everybody's like, stop looking at the 24 tape. Stop looking at the 24 tape. You got to look at the Doug Walker tape. I said, I can't get past the 24 tape. And look, 23, breaking tackles, decisive, vision, Doak Walker. You put on 24, and it's not like there was 8-9 man boxes all the time. No. Like there wasn't the same. He wasn't breaking the same tackles. There wasn't the decisiveness in the vision running. I mean, I guess I look at him as okay. If we're going to look at him as a 2-down, early down back, and we're going to look at him as a red zone threat, okay. But man, if you get anything close to that 23, where did you have Ollie Gordon? What do you? Because he's I guess. Yeah. What is it? Which one is it? The black or is it the white or there's a gray area?
I wasn't the biggest Ollie Gordon fan, admittedly. I mean, he's a bigger back, so he has a role in the NFL. This isn't me saying like he can't play in the NFL. Like he'll have a role in the NFL, obviously. But I think that just generally speaking, he lacks short area explosiveness, and I think that his change of direction is probably slightly below average for NFL standards. So I always struggle with those backs. I like the instant accelerator guys because I really think that it's so tough in the NFL, man. It's like those creases and those rushing lanes get so much smaller. You really need that instant acceleration and that stop start to really get into the creases as fast as humanly possible because they close very fast. And I do worry about Ollie as far as like, is he going to be able to take advantage of less daylight comparatively to what he had at some points in his college career? So I think he has a role, but I don't think that he's going to be like this tremendous early down runner. I think that you hope that he becomes just a quality player in the room. I think I'm in the minority on this a little bit, but I don't love him in like the wide zone system. Like I don't love him.
I don't think you're in the. I don't either. Go ahead.
He's an inside zone, like heavy power run scheme guy as well. Like you can mix and match both of those schemes, but I don't think he's a guy that like I want playing patient front side and then putting his foot in the ground and exploding. Like that's not really his game, right? Like he's more of a sort through traffic big back. Like that's
when he gets going is when he builds up speed, not that initial caught. But I think I mentioned this point. Like, I do think this is the type of back they needed in the room. I thought him or Damian Martinez. I thought Damian Martinez is a great pick where they got him. Who got it? Was it Indianapolis? No, not
No,
Indiana.
no. Giddens was the Indianapolis.
I love Giddens, man. Love Giddens.
I think Martinez went to the Seahawks, if I remember correctly.
Seahawks, yes.
Yeah.
Seahawks.
Yeah.
I thought they got great value there. But I do think this was the type of back they needed. There wasn't many of them. But the question with him is that does this kind of start? Maybe the Dolphins are not thinking to run as much outside zone. Maybe they're trying to get a bigger personnel package and package and kind of run some more inside zone, maybe more of a power gap scheme. Maybe they're transitioning because I'm like you. I don't see Gordon fitting the outside zone. Shout out Fins Talk Sports Network. Check those guys out, Bobby and all those boys. Thank you so much for joining. All right, go ahead, Ollie Gore. You agree with that, right? Could they be? Yeah. They could be switching.
It's possible. Hey, I think offensive coordinators always can evolve personally, right? Like I remember like just a couple years ago, it was like Sean McVay was a heavy outside zone. And then you got a couple different types of backs like Sony Michel and then now Kyron Williams, where it's like they're not really outside zone heavy runners. So like, let's run more inside zone. Let's do different things, pin and pull stuff, like different types of schematics that I think are better for because in my opinion, there's a lot of good offensive play callers out there, but the great offensive designers or the offensive coordinators are guys that can adjust to what they have, their scheme accordingly to the talent they have. So yes, if that's the plan, hey, Ollie's going to be we're going to change the system up a little bit, especially when Ollie's in there to be able to maximize his traits. I think it's great, but I do think if you are just steadfast on we're running outside zone and we're going to make Ollie fit, I think that's where you kind of fall through a crack a little bit.
Yeah, Charlotte Jonathan in the chat, Dolphins Realtor. Make sure you guys come over to YouTube here. We're with Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports. Come on over, watch on YouTube, smash that like and subscribe button, help support us here. All right, we're almost done with the class here. Let's go Zeke Biggers because we'll get to the last guy, the quarterback. Zeke Biggers, if I told you I watched a ton of film, I went back and watched the Miami game, thought he was good, but 34.5-inch vertical for a 6'6", 321-pound guy. He's long. You see what they're – this seems like a scout pick, right? An Anthony Weaver pick. Somebody in the room said, hey, this guy, Zeke Biggers. I could see him make it. I could see him be a part of the rotation. What are your thoughts on Zeke Biggers?
So I did a lot of film work on Zeke Biggers during the season because they played Notre Dame. So when Georgia Tech was playing, I spent a lot of time watching Zeke. And I actually watched him last summer a little bit too. And I liked it. I had a 7th round grade on him before the season started. So I had a draftable grade on Zeke just in general. He's massive, obviously. Like he's one of those guys that's kind of like those first dudes off the bus type of guys. I mean, he's 6'5", he's 320. He's got those long arms. Like he looks absolutely the part. He's a little bit of a taller interior defensive lineman. So the thing that he struggles with is just playing with natural leverage all the time. There's sometimes where he just plays a little bit high.
Yeah, he
guys get inside his frame. Like that's his negative. But I'll tell you what, man, like he moves well. He's got length. When he plays with good leverage and good pad level, he gains good extension in the run game. And I think he has upside because he's a guy that you can also move for multiple alignments. Like he's not just a one shade guy. He could also play out the 3. And I think he can move around a little bit. So I like the dart throw there. I do actually. I think that there's tremendous value potentially with Zeke Biggers. Some people would say, was it a little bit too redundant after taking 2 defensive tackles? I think it's a conversation, but ultimately at that point in the draft, I think you're just banking on upside and potential, and I think that Zeke Biggers brings a lot of that to the table.
All right, we're going to get to the guy that Jonathan is a Texas fan. He said, I want to talk Quinn Ewers for a bit with Ryan. I saw his tweet earlier on Quinn. Do you want to talk about the tweet he's referring to? Is that the Notre Dame? Go ahead and clear that situation up.
Yeah. Oh no, it's been out in the universe for like months, and people just kind of keep regurgitating it because there was a conversation of like Quinn had 1 more year of eligibility if he chose to take it. So should he go back to school? Should he enter the draft? And there was a point where I thought that he was going to end up at Miami. Like I really did think that he was potentially going to go back and end up with the Hurricanes. But for whatever reason, Notre Dame's name has continuously just been thrown out there with Quinn as like a transfer destination if he went back, and it's just not true. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like Notre Dame wasn't interested in Quinn Ewers. They weren't interested in any transfer portal quarterback. This is the first time in years where they were just, we have our guys in our room. Let's develop him. And so it's no shade against Quinn Ewers at all. I know that there was some demand for Quinn Ewers if he entered the transfer portal. I just mentioned Miami as one of them. I'm just clearing up, and I'm trying to consistently clear up. Notre Dame did not have interest in Quinn Ewers, and they definitely did not drop a bag to Quinn Ewers, quote unquote, to come to South Bend. Like that just did not happen.
Yeah, he would have got a bag, but not just with Notre Dame. And people criticize him for coming out. Yeah. He came out, but we criticized for guys for taking the money. But then when guys decide, you know what, I want to go pro, I want to have my Texas legacy, give the kid a break, right? He wanted to come out. He comes from a family that's they're not, their pockets are not hurting, right?
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about the Quinn Ewers pick here.
Sure.
Now, there was a lot of Quinn Ewers, Mike McDaniels to the Dolphins stuff before the draft. It's interesting when I watch Quinn Ewers. Here's what I see. 22, 23, he come out of high school. I saw more in the fastball. I saw more zip. Everything now, I don't know if it's oblique tear, was a lot of he's like a shortstop. He's got a beautiful release, flick of a wrist. It's kind of like a lot of curveballs, sliders, and changeups, throwing everything with touch, like pretty balls. But I think where the difference is going to come in, does he have the arm? Did the injuries take it from him? But can he step and plant when he's got that quick run? And he's got to drive the football. Can he do it? That's going to be his chance to kind of be just a backup quarterback in this league. Yeah. That's where what's the cost of it, right? I think that's where I'm at with yours.
Yeah. I mean, it's speculation on my part, but the kid's dealt with so many durability concerns, has been banged up the last couple of years. I mean, he's never finished a full season because he's just missed multiple games every year because of injury. My speculation is that I think that unfortunately, all the injuries that he's had and just the toll on his body has hurt his just overall throwing ability.
Yeah.
I think it has. I just think he's lost. He's a thinner framed guy. I know he got up to 214 in the process, but last spring for scouts, he was 198 pounds. So I'm sure he played in the 200s this past year, but he's not a big framed guy. And I think when he's dealt with so many durability concerns and all the constant injury stuff, I just think that he's lost some zip. I mean, when he was coming out of the state of Texas as a high school recruit, and when 247, or I can't remember if it was, I think it was 247, had him rated as the highest ranked high school quarterback ever or whatever. Maybe it was on 3. I can't remember which one it was. But either way, that dude had arm talent for days. That's why everyone wanted him so bad. Generating velocity from compromised platforms, from different arm slots, all that type of stuff. I just don't think that's Quinn anymore. Just don't think that's him. I don't think he has that anymore. He throws with really good touch. I think when he sees clearly, I think he's pretty decisive. So I think there's still ability for him to hang on as a backup quarterback. There's no doubt. But obviously, when his big sell early in his career, when he was, his first year after transferring from Ohio State to Texas, it was look at that natural ability to throw the football and the arm talent that he has. I just don't think that's him anymore. I don't. So he can find success. He just needs to kind of structure his game a little bit differently because he's just not the natural thrower that he used to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's like a pitcher who threw 95, 96. Now he's just throwing 90, 91.
He's Jamie Moyer now. Yeah, exactly.
Jamie Moyer. What a name. Now he's a guy trying to be is he going to become Greg Maddux, right? He's going to have to do that, the movement on the fastball. That's kind of his thing now. I think the question is, does he get it back? Or is it gone? I think we're thinking about the Quinn Ewers, because the guy wins. He's tough, right? You know what I mean? That's not, and he does throw a pretty ball, and he can make some throws with anticipation, the quick release. He fits here, right? Mm-hmm. I think he fits here, but I just don't see the zip anymore, and I think that's what made him a 7th round pick. Where did you have him? Where did you have him, Ryan? In your quarterback?
He was a late day 3 guy for me. I don't remember. He was quarterback 11 or something, quarterback 12.
It didn't shock you. Hear nothing but positivity about
it. Look, man, there was no buzz on him throughout the entire draft process. I knew he was not going to go high. The only weird thing was late. I think Dane Brugler from The Athletic, who I think's the best. He had him in his top 100, and I'm like,
he had him did he have his 4th or 5th best quarterback?
Something like that, man. I'm like, am I watching the same guy? Am I talking to the right
people? I like
people?
Dane's work, man. Dane does good work.
Great. Yeah, I know.
I got the beast this year, actually, to kind of,
Dane is the absolute best in the business, and I don't say that lightly. There's a lot of great people, I think, in the industry, and he is number one. So when he had him in the top 100, I'm like, is he talking to people that I'm not talking to? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
hearing the same things about like the
Yeah.
top 100 buzz or
This
like early
this
stuff. I'm not.
this whole Quinn Ewers going in around 3 or 4. I didn't understand that. I didn't buy it. I mean, look, Dylan Gabriel went in round 3, but
Sure.
I still when that pick happened, I didn't. I lost my. I was like,
That's the thing though, man. Is that and here's a crazy
teams love
statement.
Gabriel. I heard a couple teams
Yeah.
really love Gabriel.
Well, and here's the thing. The separator between Ewers and Gabriel as prospects at one point was the difference in arm strength, right? Like, but I don't
Yeah,
think that's the same anymore. Like,
yeah.
does Ewers have like this so much superior arm to
No,
Gabriel
I
anymore? I
think
don't think he
Gabriel
does.
has a little bit more of a stronger arm than people give him credit for.
Oh yeah, pure zip. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Gabriel's got a little something to him. There's little moxie to him, like. But that quarterback room is weird in Cleveland. Like that. So overall, did you like the dart? I guess would you not Jackson dart, but the dart at the board,
Yeah.
in the 7th round. Yeah, it's
Oh,
funny.
yeah, I'm totally
Curtis
fine
Rourke-
with Ewers in the 7th round.
Curtis
Totally
Rourke
fine.
or him? Who would you rather have had? Curtis
Who's
Rourke,
that?
Curtis Rourke, or yours that went right close to each other?
I would have rather had Ewers for the system aspects of it, right? Like
Because San Fran took Rourke.
I think Rourke graded out like slightly higher than Ewers, but it wasn't by much. Like I had late rounds on both those guys. But I think if it's a different type of system, maybe a little bit more outside the number centric type of things, right? And, as compared to like a more West Coasty type of offense that does a lot of a lot of crossing routes, mesh stuff, heavy RPO system. Like I think that's Quinn Ewers' game a lot more than it is Curtis Rourke. So for Miami, I would prefer Quinn Ewers to Curtis Rourke in that situation.
Yeah. Shout out to EM Dolphin fan, Sean, everybody in the chat, Jonathan, Dive Bar. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. All right, we'll wrap it up here pretty soon. Let me get your thoughts on the 26 quarterback class. This is real quick because, I used to laugh at everybody who says, I'm going to get to work on the 26 class. And as I got more involved in this and covered it and done my own boards, you got to get a sense before the season starts, because once the season starts, and there's 3 phases: before, during, what happens during the season, and then after. And a lot of things don't change after. You know what I mean? Like what the league thinks after the season ends and what really happens in April. Some guys move up and down, but again, I think the board not drastically changing. I look at this class and I say, wow, what we lacked in physical ability and talent and tools we have in this class.
Yeah,
I think
we talked about it.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit beforehand, but I think in 2025 we were trying to convince ourselves on the floor, right?
Yes.
Like we were trying to convince ourselves that Will Howard is this and Kyle McCord is that, and we're trying to convince ourselves that like that floor is what really matters. When we're talking about guys going early, it's about the ceiling, man. Like those are what really matters. Like of course you need a stabilizing floor too. I'm not saying you don't need a floor at all, but as far as like projecting guys to go top 100, we just mentioned Quinn Ewers. Like Quinn Ewers just doesn't have the ceiling of a top 100 quarterback anymore. He just doesn't have that, so he's never going to go top 100.
Yeah, he mentioned Archie Manning. I want to ask you this. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
is there anything to him fighting off that Manning with him and Archie?
I don't anticipate, and I could be wrong in the end, but I don't anticipate him being in the 2026 NFL draft class. I think he's going to be a 2027 kid. They've been on like the record of like they want him to be a multi-year starter, they want him to graduate, like all that type of stuff. So I imagine that we're probably talking Arch Manning in 2027 NFL draft in 2026. But even without Arch, there's a lot of talents. I mean, there is. It's smaller sample size. It's a lot of raw tools. So there's volatility to it. I mean, you could convince me today that Lenora Sellers from South Carolina is the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft, or you can convince me he's more in like the late first, early second round because he just didn't take.
It's funny you mentioned him because I was watching him. I was watching him yesterday. I love volatility in quarterbacks. I love me some upside. That's why I like Jalen Miller on this class. Because now Sellers is interesting. People say Richardson. His lower body fluidity and the way he runs and makes people miss, it's different. I think it's different. How would you compare him to a runner, to a Richardson? I like me some Sellers, man.
He's more powerful. He's probably not quite as explosive, but like he's got long speed and he's really, my comp for him early, and people on this channel will probably hate this because they don't have fond memories, but there's a lot of Dante Culpepper to his game. Like there is a whole
Man,
lot of Dante Culpepper.
You know what's funny? You say that.
Yeah.
I was watching it, and the first thing I thought it was Dante Culpepper. I'm trying to like, do I see any Steve McNair here? Do I like? I'm like, I see a not anybody reset because I think he's different than Richardson. Like everybody wants to make that easy comparison. Like he's not. I agree with you. He probably won't test in the 4.45 range like Richardson, but I actually like his a bit. Like the lower half is so like fluid when and I think he can make people miss more than a Richardson, right? So like he's interesting. Sellers.
Well, he if you go look at like Dante Culpepper's testing coming out of Central Florida, I'm talking about the young Dante Culpepper.
Yeah,
when
he was like 4.58,
not the old fat one that was with Miami.
Dolphins,
you know what I mean? Like the younger dude.
You don't have to remind us there, Ryan.
Well, he ran. People go back and look at it.
4,
I
5,
looked at
8?
it the other day. He ran 4.5 something, had a 39-inch vert at 255 pounds. So like Dante Culpepper was an athlete, man.
He was a good athlete. I mean, those Minnesota days were unbelievable.
Oh, it was great.
You know that. I mean, So Sellers, you have Nussmeier. I think could rise up and even be the first guy taken. He's a gunslinger. You're not as high on Nussmeier, but like, who is your guy? Like Drew Aller, as I think a guy who's when you say volatile, like that's Drew Aller. Like I don't know if he's going round first overall or if he goes first pick in the second round. Wouldn't surprise me.
I think he's going to be a kid that I think is going to get drafted higher than he should. Just overall, there was a reality, and this is crazy to say. Drew Aller probably would have been the second quarterback taken in this class if he would have came out, and he probably would have been a first round pick. Like he would have been. So it's I mean, look, the NFL falls for the same type all the time. The tall, excuse me for a second, the tall white winners, right? And he has all those attributes to him. He
looks the part. Yeah.
He looks the part, absolutely. And he's a much better, I know people are going to make the lazy comparison of like Christian Hackenberg. He's a much better player than Christian Hackenberg, but he's still not great either. I'm not an LR fan at all. I would personally not take him that high, but he is the guy that I think is classically going to be overdrafted because he fits the profile.
If you had to predict who would be the first one out of all these, because these are close. There's a bunch of them. There's the kid out of Clemson. There's who we're missing.
Fernando Mendoza, somebody that people like. That's in Indiana. That was a Cal transfer. So I mean, there's some good. If I had to predict today, if I was a betting man, which I am occasionally but not often, I would bet Lenore Sellers would be my guy. Of like, if who's the first quarterback off the board, I would bet Sellers if I had.
Right now, watching him yesterday, I was like, man, him in an aqua and orange uniform would be nice. You know, would be. And Jonas Savanaya. Look, we love Tua, but like you got to wonder how much longer Tua is going to be. I mean, history speaks for itself. Like
what a difference of a quarterback room with Sellers and Tua would be like polar opposites of the spectrum there, right?
You're getting me excited. Don't get me this excited, right? Ryan, don't give me. I love me some Lenore Sellers, but again, there's a lot of this next season for them is going to matter. It's going to separate guys because you said there's a lot of great things about these guys, but these are a lot of high risk guys. We didn't have that. We didn't have a lot of high risk, and we had a bunch of. I think this draft had a bunch of backup quarterbacks in it, right? Like this next draft, you're gonna have guys with big upside. All right, Ryan. Before we let you out, what are you working on right now with A to Z Sports?
Yeah, I mean, I already started into 2026. Started a couple weeks ago. So I'm just gently putting out 2026 NFL draft takes. If you go to A to Z Sports Film Room on YouTube, you can check out that channel. We've kind of wrote that we're going to now. Early 2026 NFL draft prospects. We're also talking about college football breakouts. We're even diving into some high school players because that is kind of an untapped market that we're working in. So evaluation of all levels, high school, college, and NFL. We'll be doing NFL-centric stuff during this season as well. So NFL draft takes will be out there for sure. Don't want to put it too much firmly out there because people don't read as much right now than they will in probably like a month or two. But yeah, the NFL draft takes will certainly be out there at A to Z Sports for sure.
You guys, make sure you guys check him out. He does fantastic work, and of course, we'll have Ryan on again and his draft take partner Joe. But tomorrow we're live. Me and Jason Sarney on the on season. We're gonna have a reporter who covers the Maryland Terps. Talk a little Dante Trader Jr., Jordan Phillips. Then we're gonna take a look at the Dolphins roster, kind of break down who we think are some of the safe guys, how many positions are really open. We'll go through that. That's tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. Ryan, I appreciate it as always, man. Thank you for joining me. Everybody have a safe night. Stay safe. Fins up. We are out.